food and sustainability space who have found a way to forge a career on that intersection of nutrition and sustainability, because it is not only possible, but absolutely essential for food and nutrition.
On there, and I can see halos on there. And so essentially what you're going to do is just measure, right?
All right. So if you have not muted your line, please go ahead and mute your line. I'm going to share the agenda for today's event. As I mentioned, my name is Etienne Salahi, and tonight I'm joined by Mary Purdy, who's the Director of Education here at Planetary Health Collective, and Bretta Ahlstrom, who's our Director of Operations. Bretta is the one who's making everything that seems magical and seamless happen behind the scenes. So I want to thank her for all of the coordination she's doing behind the scenes tonight. So tonight we'll be going over just brief norms and etiquette for how we're going to be running the call tonight. Everybody's a pro in how to do this at this point, you know, as we've been in pandemic life and you know how all this goes. I'm going to share a brief introduction to the Planetary Health Collective, and then I'm going to pass the mic over to Mary, who is going to introduce our panelists tonight. We have an update on our agenda. So tonight's going to be a little bit different from how we've run our events in the past, but it's going to be amazing. And we're just going to spend a moment honoring National Native American Heritage Month. We'll then go into our panel questions, where you will have the opportunity to submit live questions to our panelists tonight and have them answered in real time. And then we're going to close out with some opportunities for how you can get involved with the Planetary Health Collective if that speaks to you. And we're always looking for more volunteers. So webinar norms and etiquette, please go ahead and mute your line again if you have not yet done so. This helps us to make sure that we're honoring everybody's time and our panelists' time especially, and use the chat feature to direct your questions. So throughout the course of the event tonight, we're going to be collecting the questions that you send for our panelists and compiling them into a list. And during the Q&A, we're going to have the opportunity for you guys to have those questions answered. If you are just trickling in, remember to go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know your name, your pronouns, where you're calling in from, and how you found out about this event, or what it is that you are hoping to learn. Mary has also sent a link to a survey that you can, we would love for you to fill this out so we can get to know more about what it is that you're hoping to learn from us today, what your experience level is, and where you want it to be. Please also remember that this is an identity affirming space, and we practice respect at all times. So any form of hate speech will result in immediate removal from the event, although we know this community, that's not going to be a problem. We also invite you all to participate in tonight's call. We'll be offering several opportunities for you to actively engage, to get engaged. So please use those opportunities. We want this to be interactive. And lastly, if you would like to make a donation, you can go directly to the PHC Eventbrite page for this panel event and provide a donation through one of our tickets that way. All right. So welcome, we're the Planetary Health Collective. If this is your first time, which I know I've seen several familiar names now in the chat, so this might not be your first one, and welcome back. We're so happy to have you if you're returning, and also happy if you're new to us at Planetary Health Collective. So this is who we are. We're a movement to mitigate climate change and nourish human health by leveraging the unique role of food and nutrition in the fight. So the PHC has been around since about 2019, when we noticed that there was so much passion around the topic of sustainability in the food and nutrition space, but there were scant opportunities for us professionals to get together, put our heads together, our experiences, our unique skills, and our passion together to actually work to create the change together. And that is how the Planetary Health Collective was born. So as a part of this event, you are a part of this community. We welcome you. We are so excited to have you and to have your unique perspective a part of our collective. So our mission here is to activate, incubate, and elevate leadership potential for food and nutrition professionals who have made a commitment or want to make a commitment to use their practice and platforms to cultivate a more just, regenerative, and climate resilient food future for all. Our ultimate vision is to provide an unparalleled opportunity for food and nutrition professionals to channel their unique passions and skills to counter the climate crisis. So part of what we do at PHC is we match our volunteers with the projects and activities that are most aligned with their unique skills and passions, so that we can make sure that we are channeling your work into the against the climate crisis in the most efficient and passion-infused way. So we aim to educate our community by learning ourselves and teaching how to connect the dots between food, climate, labor, racial, and health justice, and to provide educational opportunities to members of our community who are interested in getting more information and more prowess in these topics. We also aim to incubate our community. We want to welcome members of all experience levels to foster their passions and skills in the fight. And we believe that each of us can think creatively about how every individual can support a just, resilient, and healthy food system. There's a way for everybody to be a part of this movement, and not even just, it's a necessity. It's a necessity that we all find a way to channel our unique perspectives, passions, and experiences into the movement. And lastly, we aim to activate our community by taking action alongside of our allies to forge a path forward in systemic change in food and climate justice for all. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mary Purdy, who's going to introduce our panelists tonight and share the survey with you all. So again, we can get to know you better. If at any point you have any questions, please remember to use the chat feature and enjoy.
Thank you so much, I-10. And in order for me to share the survey results, I actually might need you to take your slide deck down so that I can share these. So thank you so much for being here tonight. My name is Mary Purdy. I come to you from Seattle, Washington, the unceded territory of Duwamish people and the Coast Salish people. And I'm so thrilled to be here tonight. Wanted to give you a quick update on our speakers this evening. We had one speaker, Deanne Bransitter, who at the last minute was not able to make it. So instead of her talk tonight, we're actually going to be showing a wonderful video that is represented by the Muckleshoot Food Sovereignty Project. And this is a wonderful video in celebration of Native American Heritage Month. So she will be back to speak with us on some other month. But in the meantime, we wish her well and hope all is okay in her world as she navigates her particular issue. So let me share my screen real quick while we take a look to see at what you folks all said when we asked you about how confident are you speaking about sustainable food systems. Now, I know we have almost 100 people on the event tonight, and it looks like we are just getting about maybe 50 or so responses here. So if you haven't responded, it's not too late. But it looks like we've got just a couple folks who are very confident about speaking about sustainable food systems, 20 folks who are somewhat confident, and the majority of you are not very confident. So this is great information for us to have, because our goal is to help you your confidence, both in tonight and also in future presentations and educational opportunities. So be sure to continue to join us for future webinars, as well as our Facebook group, where we have tons and tons of educational opportunities. So you can continue to bolster your knowledge about how to make our food and agricultural system much more sustainable. So let me stop this share right now, and let's get into the heart of this evening's presentation. So I would like to start off by introducing our first speaker. And our first speaker is Kate Gegan. Now, she is an award-winning dietitian and a nutrition pioneer who has helped millions of eaters fall in love with foods that are transformative for people and planet, bringing deep expertise at the intersection of food, agriculture, and sustainability. Kate is a strategic partner to some of the world's leading purpose-driven companies and regenerative food startups. She is a co-founder of Food and Planet, a nonprofit whose mission is to equip 1 million health professionals, that's 1 million health professionals, to advance regenerative, sustainable diets by 2025. And she's given over 1,500 media interviews as a trusted health and sustainability expert. Kate, I will let you take it away. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Oh my gosh, I am so inspired and motivated, first of all, just to see everyone who's showing up tonight in the chat, introducing yourself. I am so impressed that I don't think when I was a student, I was nearly, as passionate and showing up late at night for this kind of event. So really well done, Planetary Health Collective. I'm so just honored to be here with you all. And just grateful for this opportunity to chat with everybody. So let me pull my slide and just do a screen share if that's okay. I've got just a couple slides to kind of keep us on track as we're talking. Share screen. Let's see. Can everybody see slideshow? Play from start. Can everybody see my slides?
You're good to go.
Yep.
Okay, great. So yeah, I'm just gonna share a little bit about my journey. Really, as Iten and Mary have said, like, we all need to step into this space, and each one of us is going to have our own journey, our own way that we show up and participate, our own voice and unique experiences, and our own value that the world needs right now. So no matter where you are in your RD journey or your sustainable nutrition journey, I really just want to reinforce what Planetary Health Collective has said around, we are at a tipping point. It's an amazing time to be alive, an amazing time to be in health, and the world needs all of us, and that's each and every one of you listening. So I'll share a little bit about my journey, and then as I was instructed to get through this fast so we could get to the meaty Q&A part, so I'll just go quickly. But just to share, you know, Mary shared my bio, but I always like to just take a moment and honor where I stand. I live in Idaho on land that was Shoshone-Bannock tribal lands, in currently today, Blaine County, Idaho. I moved here 4 years ago, really just getting closer to source. I'm from Boston originally. I grew up in Framingham, home of the Heart Study. But as I've pursued my own curiosity in my career, it's led me closer to the land. And my husband and I moved here in 2017, where we'd actually been in Utah, and we bought 14 acres. And since the day we stepped on this land, it was done very, very traditionally and conventionally. And we've just done no pesticides. I'd say organic, but there's no products coming off. It's just for us personally, but no glyphosate, no pesticides. We've brought in, we've invited a local beekeeper. So those are some of our bees up on the upper right corner. We just do a trade. I'm one of, I think, 6 sites around the valley where the beekeeper has hives. We have 3 because we have so many. We've got 5 fruit trees, fruits and vegetable patches, and the woman before me was not only a master gardener, but a gardener of Idaho heritage plants. So it's really like the biodiversity for the bees on this property is something we're really passionate about. It's been super humbling. Oh my gosh, make no mistake. I don't know if you've seen Biggest Little Farm, but I mean, got shoulder issues from trying to work on manure management and nutrient cycling, which is why we've adopted 2 rescue horses. That's Dunny down on the left, one of my favorite creatures ever. And then that's just a photo from our garden. So I continue to learn and lean deeply into the land at this point in my journey, and just continue to grow and be inspired, but I'm based in Idaho. So no matter where you are today in your practice, like I said, you've probably noticed the food, wellness, and sustainability are merging. So it's a really, really great time, no matter where you want to or envision your career going, to just see this meta trend that is happening. And it's actually not a trend, it is a new layer on life, right? And we're seeing this constantly. No matter where you look, you are seeing sustainability show up in different ways when it comes to food, health, wellness, nutrition. And I put this slide together because I love to just kind of take the arc of our profession. We actually started in World War II after, nutrient deficiencies were identified in the population, and so many of the military, so many youth were failing the draft from malnutrition. So nutrition actually started as a science of mapping deficiencies. And then when I actually, to date myself, became a dietitian in 2000, and it was very much about like food, nutrient, function. This was the rise of this idea of different nutrients for different disease. Fat-free was all the rage. People were like beating each other up over the last box of Snackwell fat-free cookies. I don't know if anyone's on the line who can remember those days, but it was this idea of like nutrient claims, and that was really the mindset, nutrient and disease. Then it was nutrition 3.0, the rise of functional foods, right? And superfoods. And we still have a lot of that in the marketplace today. ORAC scores and this concept of, you know, getting the best bang for your buck. Really now what everyone's talking about is food is medicine. Actually, all food is functional, right? I remember speaking at Nestle once, and one of the senior leaders, when I said that in my very first sentence, you know, it's funny to me, you have like a category known as functional food, but all food is functional because food is information that tells cells how to behave and signals our biology. So we're really now in this exciting moment where food is a tool, not just for our own health and well-being, but to empower communities, to look through different lenses of what kind of societies we want, to reimagine agriculture, to create a healthy, equitable, resilient food system on a living planet. And it's really intersecting in the science. When my book first came out in 2009, I remember showing up at Fancy, and a lot of people understood it, but a lot of people sort of said, oh, that's nice. But you know, most consumers, they're concerned about taste, price, and you know, taste, price, and convenience, which it's not to say they're not now, but this is a very real new layer that is both top down and bottom up. And what I mean by that, you know, consumers, if you look at where growth is happening in the grocery store, the brands that are solving for this or telling this story are outpacing by a factor of 7x the growth of just regular food brands that aren't telling a sustainability story. It's also top down, investors, the health professional community, really saying like, we need to be incorporating this and telling these stories. So look for this science. This is part of the grounding. Groups like Planetary Health Collective will help you understand how to connect these dots. This is my own approach that I share with clients of really any of the work that I do. I start grounded in my training as a registered dietitian, my master's degree in science, and really that health and wellness, clinical, scientific evidence base. And then on top of that, sustainability. So sustainability absolutely also has science and being able to interpret that, but there's even more to that sustainability layer, if you will. And then the different ways that it is pushed out to create impact, right? How do we craft a compelling strategy? How do we sharpen a story so that what matters the most means the most to people? How do we drive adoption? And how do we innovate to solve on some of these challenges? This is how it sort of comes to life for me in a typical day or over the course of a couple of weeks or months. One of the things I'm most excited about right now is being a co-founder of Food and Planet. And one of my, I mean, PHC, they are like our sisters for sure. We're so excited that they're also really trying to advance this space with all of you. How do we empower and equip health professionals with the science they need, but also tools to activate in their practice? So this is a white paper that we actually just launched in September. Our brand new website goes live tomorrow, yay. So be sure to check it out, foodandplanet.org. And then the other sort of bucket, if you look at these top 3 circles all together, for me, now we're all going to play at different places, and that's what's so amazing about this movement. Every single one of us is needed to show up with our voice, our expertise, and our point of view of what we can contribute. For me, one of the places that I found I am most excited about is helping consumer adoption, helping people understand what's happening, tell stories in ways that they see themselves, so that you know, we all have a stake in Mother Nature. We all have a right to clean, nutritious, safe food, nourishing, accessible food for our families. So I've looked for ways of how I can do that in my own career. And this book with Rodale, oh my gosh, I'm dating myself, came out in 2009, which means I wrote a low carbon diet footprint book in 2000, 7. So I was a little early to the game, but the good news for that, for me, you know, and the more you can put your point of view out there, you'll attract, you know, and find what work is going to resonate best for what you're passionate about. And that's really how you can be successful, to just be true to yourself and what you want to drive forward in the world. Sorry, I'm probably going over time. I only have like 1 or 2 more slides. And then the bottom right, this is a lot of my work as well, being a strategic advisor. Now that the world has sort of caught up, the consumers have caught up, investment groups. I'm an advisor to the Drawdown Fund, which was based on Paul Hawkins' book, Drawdown Solution, which was 100 solutions to pull carbon from the atmosphere that were already ready. We didn't need new breakthroughs. We didn't need new technology, 100 ideas. And out of that book came the Drawdown Fund, which is a $250 million investment fund deploying capital. So helping look at food investments, agriculture investments. A lot of people getting into sustainable food who don't actually, I bring to the table a health and wellness grounding in the science that no one else on the team has. So this is actually really, really a brand new way that we're seeing health professionals contribute to sustainability on the capital side, the money and investment. And then working with nonprofits. I've done a lot of work with American Farmland Trust because regenerative agriculture right now is such a buzz. So how do they understand how to even evaluate regenerative agriculture? Where should they be showing up? Could they create a metric to define it that companies would have a standard that companies would have to adhere to, you know, to be able to say they're doing regenerative agriculture? These are really, to me, exciting questions, but ask yourself, what jazzes you up? What are your questions that you lie awake at night or you're passionate about? Go there. That's where you'll be successful. And this is just how I sort of tell my story to clients or potential clients who are like, how can I work with you? Because I've been an independent advisor. I've had my own consulting firm for 20 years. So a little untraditional, but these are sort of the big buckets that I find companies want to play in, or my clients want to play in, because it's not always companies. Insights and strategy, helping them get smarter, faster. Maybe brand collaboration. And this might not be a food brand. At Food and Planet, we're about to do a big collaboration looking at ocean and how do we elevate ocean foods in the right way to close that gap between USDA guidelines and health outcomes, but to do it responsibly with all of these like blue foods assessments and things coming out now. Scaling companies or supporting companies with communication strategy, connecting with consumers, science-based but accessible storytelling, and then how do we help create learning opportunities for health pros around sustainable nutrition. The reason I like this, and this is a tip I would offer, this helps me evaluate incoming opportunities, because if an opportunity in my inbox doesn't line up to one of these, I know it's not in my core value area. So it helps me really separate where I want to spend my time. And I just share some of my clients. I didn't know, sorry guys, I'm not trying to advertise for anybody. Some of these are older. I just wanted to show you the breadth of opportunity and all the different ways you can show up. For me, it has been, you know, commodity boards and food companies, food service companies. Some of these are tip of the spear, doing things like, you know, vegan egg replacement or food tech. Some of these are exploring new delivery models to consumers. Some are investment funds, some are nonprofits, and some have global supply chains trying to tackle sustainability. So that's always been the lens I've tried to evaluate when I say yes to something, is how can I meaningfully contribute or advance real outcomes on the ground. So thank you for tuning in. I can't wait to have a conversation and take any questions, and I hope I didn't go too far over.
Thank you so much, Kate, for sharing your wealth of experience. You just run the gamut in terms of all these different toes and fingers in so many different sustainability pots. So we're really honored to have you here. Thank you. And I can't wait to hear more about kelp. I'm getting super excited about the potential of kelp in the sustainability conversation. So we'll have to talk more about that. I'd love to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is Deanne Bransitter. And let me grab her bio here. She is as Vice President of the Nutrition and Wellness for Compass Group North America. She leads a team that coordinates wellness programs for food service clients and develops initiatives or innovative and award-winning nutrition and wellness initiatives, including the nutrition program for the 2002 Winter Olympic Games in Salt Lake City, Utah. She earned an American Culinary Federation Silver Medal, co-chairs the CIA, Culinary Institute of America, Healthy Menus R&D Collaborative, and is on the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics Board of Directors as Treasury-elect. Deanne, thank you so much for being here. I'll let you take it away.
All right. Thanks, Mary. And I too am delighted to be here, and especially to be here with Kate Gegan, because we've worked together for many, many years. So it's just an honor and a delight. I'm going to take a little bit different spin on what I do. I have worked for the last 27 years for Compass Group, which is one of the world's largest on-site contract food service companies. So we feed people just about everywhere, from K-12 schools, colleges and universities, corporate dining, healthcare, long-term care, sports and entertainment venues, museums and cultural centers. And as Mary mentioned, even the 2002 Salt Lake City Olympics. Altogether, we serve 29 million meals a day globally. So we have a responsibility and also a passion for doing the right thing for both people and planet. Because even a small change that we make, since we feed so many people, can have a big impact on personal health and on the environment overall. So I wanted to walk you through a little bit of kind of where we've come from, where we're going, our strategy, and how over time, the registered dietitian nutritionists within Compass Group have taken on a bigger and bigger responsibility in the world of sustainable food systems. At the top, I have a counterpart who leads the sustainability initiatives for Compass Group North America overall. I lead health and wellness, but we are joined at the hip because it's inextricably linked. And there are so many initiatives, and I'll show you a few, where there is such tremendous overlap that we need both pieces working together. But the one thing I will say, as I mentioned before, is that we have a team of 2,000 registered dietitian nutritionists working for Compass Group in the United States. So I think that makes us one of the largest employers of RDs. And many of them, obviously some are working in strictly clinical roles, medical nutrition therapy, but many, many, many of them, and especially ones who work at a higher level, have increasingly been given the responsibility for sustainability within their sphere of influence. And so, you know, we've obviously had to scramble to make sure that they had resources, they had training, that they were given the support they needed, because this is a new area for many of them. So I'm thrilled that there are so many students here, that there's so many interns here, because you know, you're jumping in now as a student and learning as much as you can about sustainable food systems, and that will give you tremendous background and a huge up on the what I think are many job opportunities in the future. So a little bit about our roadmap. And this is where we are now. We're looking to create a circular economy. truly is about a circular economy. Our strategies are rooted, so, you know, much like Kate, when she evaluates opportunities, we look and bounce every strategy back off of our roadmap, if you will, because our strategies have to be rooted in reducing our carbon impact. We always prioritize ingredients from local and diverse artisans, and we're leading the fight against food waste. And you'll see some examples of some of this. We go on, and I just need to be able to, and for some reason, let me stop the share for a minute, because for some reason my slides are not advancing. Okay. Let's see if we go from here. This is our timeline, and I'm very proud that I've been there since 1995. I was working with one of the Compass sectors at that time, Flick International, when we decided to commit to zero trans fat frying oil. Long before it was an industry standard, long before it was banned in the United States.
Yeah, you need to share your screen again. So sorry, so we can't see your screen anymore. So you just need to press share screen again.
Okay, all right, let me, sorry about that.
No worries.
I got to where, okay, so now, okay, let's try this again. All right, is that better? Can everybody see?
Yes, you just need to put it into the slideshow, but looks great.
There we go, okay. And let's see if it'll advance this time. So you can see over the years that every time we hit a milestone and decided to make yet another commitment or move along the sustainability journey, it came with the opportunity for myself and all of the other registered dietitian nutritionists within Compass Group. We had to become educated about the issues. So it first was sustainable seafood. It was cage-free eggs, certified cage-free eggs. It was looking at how we measure carbon, what we call carbon footprint, which is the carbon footprint associated with the food system, and so on and so forth. So if you look at where we are when we get to 2001, even with all of the supply chain challenges related to the pandemic, we've still been able to accomplish quite a lot this year. We've transitioned all of our liquid eggs to cage-free eggs. We did shell cage-free eggs many years ago. We've partnered with Food Tank. We've had a major event, Stop Food Waste Day. I hope you will all think about joining us this coming April for an annual event that we've had for the last 5 years. But this year we partnered with Food Tank because we had a virtual event and it was great. We're focusing a lot on packaging because plastic packaging is really an area we'd like to tackle. It took a step backwards during the pandemic because everybody was so concerned about hygiene and sanitation and making sure their food was covered. And so we have joined a single-use material decelerator group. We also have we've pulled in our clients, many of whom are real experts in sustainability, to have a client advisory group. We're starting down the road of regenerative agriculture. We have a supplier diversity accelerator. So really looking at all the different pillars of sustainability and how can we play in each of those. Many of the diverse suppliers who are out there don't know how to navigate a big food system to get their products in. So we've created an accelerator with mentoring, coaching to help them meet the standards that they need so that they can they can provide their products to bigger companies. And then the latest thing off the press, we have announced science-based targets and our net zero goal and net zero commitments around that. Oh, and it works now. As I mentioned, nutrition, well-being, and sustainability are inextricably linked. And one of the things that was so interesting, because a large portion of our business was closed in the early days of the pandemic, and many of our clients were asking for us to create solutions that their employees, their students, their outpatients could use at home. We have linked together really everything related to nutrition, well-being, and sustainable food systems under a public-facing website. I encourage all of you to visit it, weeatlivedowell.com, where we have pulled together recipes, tips on waste reduction, tips on eating plant-forward diets. There are videos on demand of teaching kitchen sessions that teach people a lot of these skills. Blog posts, recordings, toolkits, recipes, menu planners, shopping lists, all kinds of stuff. But they're all linked together. Going forward, I think our strategy really is focused on 3 areas where both nutrition, well-being, plus sustainability and sustainable food systems are linked together, and there's a role for both for them to play all together. The first is around reducing food loss and food waste. And when you think about it, just things like right-sizing portions helps us reduce food waste. So that nutrition lesson that everybody learns at the beginning of their career about coaching people around what appropriate portion sizes are, that is so important in reducing food loss and food waste. Labeling, education, using imperfect produce, both at a household level and at a food service level. And then donation and upcycling. So, we are always going to be in a situation where we have some overproduction. We don't want to run out of food and not be able to feed people. But what do we do with that? And creating a big system where we can upcycle the food, we can donate the food, we can make sure it just isn't thrown in the landfill. The second big bucket is promoting healthy and sustainable diets. So a big focus on plant-forward diets. And at the same time, reducing carbon impact, looking at what kind of labeling works best, both from an eco standpoint and nutrition standpoint. We obviously have menu label laws here in the US. So there are certain things that we have to provide information about on the menu. How can we weave in that eco-friendly piece? Because when you look at what consumers want, they do want clues around what they should eat for their health, but also what they should eat for the environment. Teaching kitchen classes and more Eat, Live, Do Well resources. And then the last bucket is focused with the last bucket, we're focusing more on our pipeline of suppliers, which is critically important because we can't get to our net zero carbon commitments without every single supplier that we buy ingredients from being on board. And that's a big lift because just in the US, we probably have 80,000 different suppliers. When you think about local bakeries and local produce and diversity vendors and diverse vendors, and there are so many different suppliers across the country. So we're focusing on regenerative agriculture. We're focusing on agrobiodiversity. So not looking at a very small number of ingredients, plants, things like that. And then also restorative aquaculture. There's, the pressure on the oceans is huge, but a lot of aquaculture has not been very well managed in the past, and it's an area of confusion for a lot of registered dietitians. So we're really looking at restorative aquaculture practices, some of which also includes looking at sea plants. So when we say aquaculture, we're not just talking about fish and shellfish, we're also talking about all sea plants. And then finally, we could not do this without a huge number of partners. These are just a few out of a huge collection, but we need partners. We need partners to help educate us. We need partners to help amplify our message. We need partners to help us with goal setting. And we have a huge variety of partners that we work with that we're very grateful for their expertise, for their technical assistance, for their communication skills, and to really help us be able to make a difference in the world. So that's my last slide. And again, I am just so thrilled to be here and ready for questions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Deanne, so much. We so appreciate, again, your expertise and your wealth of experience and years of experience is really appreciated. I'm going to take a moment to show our video so you guys can turn off your cameras for the moment, and then we will launch into some questions. We're running a little bit behind on time, but we are willing to stay a little bit of extra time just so that we can make sure that we answer some of those questions. Deanne and Kate, if you are able to stay a few extra minutes, that would be wonderful. In the meantime, let's get started with showcasing this video, which I hope you will all enjoy.
We stand behind our mission statement to support producers of source verified, high quality Navajo beef or Nahada.
Oops. I think this is actually the wrong video. I think it just forwarded by itself. So hold on for 1 moment.
We stand behind.
Been watching numbers completely invert in the 10 years of my career, where tribal communities were typically the most likely to attempt breastfeeding, and now they've become the least likely to attempt breastfeeding in the first 6 months of a child's life, and that breast milk is our first food. When you make a change in someone's diet, you're asking them to change their values and their morals, and it's really important to take the time to explain why. To explain that these things are not upholding our health, that I do what I do because the elders sent me out there and said, I don't want to see my grandchildren suffer the way I'm suffering from diabetes and heart disease and things that are totally preventable. And when I'd ask them what they thought they needed to be healthy, every single one of them, time and time again, told me that the culture is the medicine and they believe our foods can heal us. This was really the only thing I thought could make a major, ripple effect kind of difference in 3 years, was to lift as many people up as we can to be breastfeeding peer counselors. I took the 9-month course on traditional food medicines last year with Val and got my certificate, and I use that to take my 3rd graders out. Every year we go nettle picking. I take them out in the forest to nettle pick, clam dig. They go canoeing and get to do these different things where they're actually harvesting things from Oregon grape to wild rose. One of the things that's setting this training apart from a typical breastfeeding peer counselor training that you would take is we've developed an exclusive traditional foods and medicines program guide for new moms. And In it, we talk about, how traditional diets, those dietary protocols actually helped promote breast milk production. We're promoting people, get out and harvest their own wild rose as a part of getting ready for the birthing process, and preparing some really special medicines for, your newborn. Yeah, we're talking about medicine that you put on your body, but plants infused in waters or eaten in food also increase nutrition.
I want all of our tribal communities to get better, to start to heal themselves, to turn back to their traditional medicines. And I understand that Western medicine has its place. I definitely appreciate that, but why not try to intervene with some of the commonplace fixes that our elders used to use traditionally?
When you're preparing for breastfeeding success, you're thinking about those things, you're holding that space as you're preparing these medicines as well. And that is part of the process of just like landing in motherhood.
I know that the fact that women are coming to these classes, it will make a difference, just in the fact that they'll be more confident in themselves, and that will help create that change. The fact that they're confident enough to do what they want to do, which is breastfeed wherever their baby needs to be breastfed.
First Nations has been an incredible ally for this work since it began back in 2009. We started with planting some fruit orchards here at the tribe, and they funded some of that work. They've provided funding for, everything from food resources to be planted here on the res, to helping me develop a beverage campaign that is now serving several tribal communities throughout the Northwest.
In the interest of time, I'm going to just pause there, but it gives you a sense of that project and allows you to understand just another way that we as nutrition professionals can begin to share knowledge around sustainability, which includes preserving Indigenous wisdom and preserving Indigenous cultures and diets and traditional ways. So I wanted to make sure that we had that represented in tonight's discussion. So without any further ado, would love it if Kate and Deanne would put on your microphones and videos again and ask a couple of questions, because I know we've got people in the audience wondering about how you got to where you got to. And I think one thing that's so helpful to understand is, what was something as you began to incorporate sustainability and that work into your life as a professional in nutrition? What was a step that you took along the way, whether it was an educational pathway or a professional pathway, that actually really felt like it was the cornerstone for you in terms of understanding how sustainability would help you amplify what you were doing?
Dan, do you want to go first?
I'll give it a try. Honestly, I have to say, for me, it was a really gradual process, because I started down this journey so long ago when really nobody was very interested in this. And if there was anything, it was many years ago in New York, and we had a parents group who came to me because we had a private school division when I was with Flick International, which became part of Compass Group. We had a parents group called Mothers and Others in New York State. And their big thing was core values apples. And they came and they knocked on my door and they said, you really need to buy these core values apples because they are grown with integrated pest management. The New York State growers can't afford to become, there was no organic, there was no certified organic in the US at that time. So it was the Wild West anyway. And they said, this is the next best thing, because organic doesn't really mean anything. We use integrated pest management, and you really need to bring these into the schools. And so that kind of set me down the path, because it was one very small step. But you build on that and you educate yourself and you learn about the issues, and then you take the next step and the next step and the next step. So I think for me that was really it.
Agree. It's never just one thing. It's usually a whole host of factors that come together. How about you, Kate?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I absolutely had a similar aha moment. For me, it was when I became pregnant. And we now see in the literature that that's actually a window that a lot of people do start reevaluating and asking questions for their children's well-being. And so it's a ripe time. I love that video you just shared, by the way. Thank you. It's amazing. For so many reasons, but it's this ripe time to like re-examine and set a course for yourself. And for me, that's the first time, because I was raised on like Tang and Capri Sun, you know, very suburbia. I was bottle fed as a baby. So that for me was a window, which we see in the science that's a time. And if I had one tip, that another thing that sort of opened my eyes when I was writing the book, Go Green, Get Lean, it was 2007. And I had to start going to these conferences because no one really in dietetics was talking about sustainability at that level. I mean, yes, HEN was there, but it wasn't sort of this movement. So I started going to other conferences and other rooms, right? Just other places that didn't have dietitians or health professionals. And that's when my eyes really opened. Like there is a whole constellation of people trying to solve. How can we bring some of this together? What's the role in our profession? And that is just amplified. So if you're listening tonight, like your entry point may not be something for continuing education credits or even your first job. You might have to side hustle it to learn those skills and then integrate it. And that's okay. That's okay. But it's a really dynamic and fast changing space right now, at least in my experience.
Absolutely. And you bring me to the next question perfectly, because I realize the value of working across sectors, that it may not be about how we work with other dietitians or nutrition professionals, but how we work completely across different career paths. How have you worked with other sectors, and how has that been beneficial for you or for the organizations with which you are working?
Yeah, so for me at this moment, working with the investment sector is really interesting to me. If you look at all of the investment in plant-based, right? We could do a whole seminar on how plant-based is blowing up right now for good and confusion. I looked at all the money flowing into food with saying like, oh, we've got all these great solutions. And I went to some of these conferences and said, these are all financial experts in the room, and you're talking about majorly influencing the food system. Where is your brain trust expertise about health and wellness outcomes? And I would ask a really simple question like, how do you measure, because you say this is for health and sustainability, what metrics are you using to measure changes in health outcomes with these investments? And well, it's better, it's plant-based. Okay, well, how are you measuring it? So the investment sector is one example. I think there's so much happening in tech right now that if you have anyone on here tonight who's really looking at that, I know from our work in Food and Planet that food justice, food equity is a huge area of opportunity, and that there's tremendous work to be done there. And there's so many great groups, companies, organizations, and resources in that ecosystem that I think we are in a great moment if that's your core area to step up and help build the new, help solve for that. Or even in our industry of dietetics, we need more diverse voices, diverse tools, and solutions. And so there's a lot of complementary ways to participate.
And I think I'm so glad you mentioned food justice, because I think we really have to make sure that people know that food justice, racial equity, environmental justice are parts of what it means to be sustainable, of what it means to have a sustainable food system. So I think people often don't put those two together, but they're so key. And the other thing I think you identified is that it may not be about having expertise in sustainability as a dietitian, but tapping into the expertise that one has as a nutritional professional who can come in and connect those dots with the organizations that are working on sustainability, but don't have the nutrition piece in place yet. So thank you for highlighting that. How about you, Deanne? I know you're working with a lot of different organizations. Could you showcase?
No, and there've been a couple. I think certainly our client advisory board has been huge, because most major companies today have a whole department that focuses on sustainability. Now, it's not necessarily sustainable food systems. Sometimes they don't even really think about that too much. But from their standpoint, it's a lot of more of it is about engineering and architecture and green building, if you will. So looking at the entire physical environment. And then, of course, we bring in the role that food plays within that whole environment. And, you know, besides our clients, it's also been being part of the International Well Building Institute and their well certification nourishment advisory. But I've had to know about all of the other concepts, about light, about sound, about about air quality. And it gets, you know, it certainly has given me a huge appreciation for how complicated it is, because so much of that is engineering, and it's just, it's huge. But every time I participate in one of those things, I learn a little bit more.
Yeah, and that makes you a stronger contender too in the sustainability space. I have one more quick question for you guys that I'd love to get your take on, because COP26, or the United Nations Climate Summit, just ended last Friday. And I think many of us are aware of the fact that the food and agricultural system as it is contributing to about 1/3 of the greenhouse gas emissions globally. And yet the food and agriculture conversation was not given one day or one session at this climate summit. And I wanted to get a quick take from each of you on your thoughts around that, and how we can continue to have those conversations beyond COP26.
You know, I can jump in first. I think there's going to be a lot of side tangential conversations, because throughout COP26, you know, you hear the buzz on the side, and it was all concern about the fact that food systems weren't given enough time. But I think as a result of that, there have been so many tangential groups and spin-offs that have sprung up that I think that space is going to be filled. It's going to be a function of, do they have the power and the clout to affect change at a government level?
Excellent. How about you, Kate? Quick thoughts from you.
I would just add to, because I agree with Deanne completely, the beauty of our profession, our intersection, is at the end of the day, it's about consumer people coming together and making choices about what foods to buy at food service, to buy in their grocery store. So we as dietitians have that opportunity to shape that, you know, inform and educate and help shape decisions that, because the global, you know, business, what's happening, it can feel really far off from what you're actually putting in your cart or sharing with a girlfriend or a friend at the, you know, over the table. And that's where our power really resides, in distilling all that into, like, how do you want to show up at your meal, and what are some easy ways to make some changes that align with, you know, right now everyone's also talking about the SDGs and sustainable development goals, but how do we make it craveable, compelling, and have everybody see themselves as like part of that solution? And that's where I think our profession is such a linchpin for that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both for answering some of my questions. I know we're over time. If you're willing to stay just a couple of extra minutes, I know we've got some questions that are burning from our audience members that I will let Brett on from here. So thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, just switching some things out. But you guys have both shared kind of your experience and your process to getting where you were. But if you were starting again today, what would you do differently? What education would you seek out if you were going to be a new RD?
Go ahead, Kate.
Oh, gosh, that's such a good question. I really think agriculture, and I've seen in the chat some people asking, I think having that practice, learning of that land, doing a little bit of culinary and agriculture is really helpful to pull through some of these concepts. So I think changing up the internship or looking for internships that offer those kinds of things is a really good thing, a good step to take. The other thing I would really do is read and look at, in addition to like what's offered on the traditional dietetics path, invest every week, a couple hours a week. At least this is what I did. When I was in my internship, I read business books at night because I knew that I wanted to have my own business and be a consultant. So I got the training of dietetics during the day, but allocate a couple hours a day, a couple hours a week, whatever you can afford, to really digging in on something you're passionate about. Because if you're passionate about it, it will lead you to, opportunities that won't feel like work, especially because we have a lot of students. I don't know about Deanne, but my early days as you're hustling and working to like establish yourself, it won't feel like work. You're actually going to feel really joyful if you're doing something you're passionate about. And as Mary said, with all the dimensions that are part of sustainability, there are so many entry points that are critical when we talk about sustainable diets.
From my standpoint, I would agree with everything that Kate said. I think for students today, there are so many more opportunities to, there's so many more classes. I think certainly becoming a student member of the Academy and of HEN, because there are webinars and all sorts of sessions, and finding a mentor who's doing what you would like to do and talking to them. There are also, I don't know too many farmers that would turn down someone who raised their hand and said, I want to come help and learn to farm with you, for help. There's a great organization in California called the Center for Land-Based Learning, and they take people every year that they teach to farm sustainably. They give you an acre on their land with the idea that you can then move on and do your own thing afterwards. So I think there are just so many opportunities. But a good place to start is to find a mentor, find somebody who's doing what you'd like to do, and tap into their expertise.
That is exactly what I did, Deanne. When I started as a dietitian, I joined Nutrition Entrepreneurs and I looked at the board, and then I volunteered. Even if you can't find a mentor, just volunteer somewhere with people who are doing what you want to do, and you will marinate in a lot of great ideas, great networking, and ultimately opportunity.
Awesome, fantastic. And I'll plug PHC. A lot of those resources for webinars and things like that we have in our Facebook group. Like, it is a wealth of educational opportunities. So, and you can also volunteer at the PHC, but thank you guys. I think that's super helpful. A lot of students are with us today, and those were some of their biggest questions. We're like, what do I do? Switching gears a little bit into kind of like your day-to-day, but what's the process for implementing some of these commitments for either Compass or the brands that you work with, Kate? What does that look like on that practical level?
Gosh, from a practical standpoint, we have to, we're not going to make a commitment that we can't follow through on. So we have to make sure that we have a pretty good idea of how we're going to execute it before we make the commitment. And, in many cases, it can be a cost thing. The commitment around cage-free shell eggs, when we made it with the idea of hitting that goal by 2021. We made it 5 years ago. Then the pandemic hit. The cost of converting to all cage-free shell eggs, quintupled, I think. But we had to do it because we made a commitment. So, a lot of it is making sure that you have a clear path forward. A lot of times we work with a third-party certifying organization when there's someone in that space, so that it's not just us saying it, because we're a big company, people will want to shoot bullets at us. So that way it's not just us saying we hit the target, we have someone there to help us certify.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's with my clients as well. For example, I worked with one of the largest olive oil companies in the world, and they were operating in dozens of countries. So supply chain, and how do you verify supply chain? It's your partners, so it's a little bit digging into the food label, but your partners and how are they verifying those standards? As Deanne said, for a lot of brands, one of the effective ways to do that is through these verified third-party certifications. And that really spans agriculture, like organic, to fair labor and wages, like a fair trade certified, to biodiversity preservation, like a Rainforest Alliance certified cocoa, or sustainable certified seafood. There's a couple different certifications. But that is one way, because as Deanne said, and it's so important, it's very important that just what a company says or a brand says, that doesn't have the teeth to it, that some of these other certification standards, or there's something called ESG reporting, which is when they have to really sort of open their books to the public and investors. And that's another tool that, in my experience, they use to just make sure they're really getting to that benchmark. So it's not just marketing speak, there's real teeth there.
Awesome. I think you guys are a wealth of knowledge, and we're going to go ahead and wrap up tonight. But thank you guys so much and for answering all the questions and sharing your experience. And I'm going to go ahead and kick it back over to Mary so she can wrap us up.
Thank you. And I'm sure Kate feels the same way. If anybody wants to, please, I saw Mary put all our contact information in the chat. Please reach out, because I'm happy to talk to anybody who has additional questions.
100%. And at Food and Planet, same with interns, or if you want, to connect, same, like there's so much opportunity, and I too would like to make myself available. So
I can't tell you how generous both Kate and Deanne are. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago that I reached out to them and said, hey, can I chat with you and pick your brain a little bit about what you do? So here we are a few years later. So they are truly, truly generous spirits. So thank you so much. I wanted to just share the results of the survey in terms of how you are all feeling. Looks like some of you are feeling more confident in how you incorporate your sustainability. Looks like lots of you are feeling inspired to learn more about how you can be involved. And again, lots of you are feeling very much aiming towards getting more future education. So we're so glad we could provide education tonight. There's lots more to be had. There are great job opportunities and opportunities for connection and networking in all of these places: Compass, Food and Planet, and of course, Planetary Health Collective. And we thank you so much for sticking around and staying a few extra minutes. I know we're down to about half where we were of people when we began, but thank you for those who stayed. Take care, everybody.
Thanks.
We'll see you.
Thank you. Thanks. Have a great night, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye. And I'm happy to stick around for a little bit for anybody who is just asking one last question. I don't know if Bretta and I-10, if we want to stay just for a couple more minutes just to close it out while people are leaving. Thank you so much, Samira and Gina. All the wonderful students and interns. You guys are going to be our future. I guess we didn't get a chance to mention that we have January, February, and March webinars as well, but hopefully people will.
Yes. Well, we have all their emails now. They'll go out with our email list, and I did get them all uploaded to Eventbrite, so they are there to register.
Great.
Awesome.
All right, folks. Well, thank you so much. I think I'm going to head off here.
All right, bye everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm like, I think I'm gonna close it all out. We have about 13 people left who are probably just straggling. So yeah, I will close it out, and unless you want to touch base.
I think we're okay. I actually have to jump off too.
Cool.
So awesome job. Thanks everyone for coming.
All right, bye.
Bye.